So multiple choice questions, like I said, these are actually, every question on the test is a form of a multiple choice question, but some of them are kind of more specifically multiple choice than others. What these are essentially getting you to do is choose a correct answer from 3 or 4 possible options. The main skills that generic multiple choice questions are testing is your ability to scan a text for information. And when we're scanning, we're not actually reading every single word in a text, and it's a really big time saver. Remember, we know that this part of the test is really time sensitive, and often you won't have time to read the entire passage word for word, because that would take up maybe 10 of your 40 minutes. So you don't want to go in and just sit down and start reading the passage itself. You want to start with the questions and only look for precise information in the passage itself. You don't want to be reading and then trying to answer the questions. You want to know what the question is and then locate the answer inside of the text. So definitely approach all of these questions, question first, passage second. Like I say, scanning will really help with that. All of the questions do tell you precisely which paragraph to look into for your answer, so that can also save you a lot of time. When I say scanning, what I mean is once you know what paragraph you're focusing on for a specific question, for instance, paragraph A or paragraph B, you then want to scan that paragraph, not actually read it word for word, but scan for keywords from the question or synonyms of keywords from the question in order to locate the specific sentence that they're actually asking you to consider. So that's a really important skill. You can practice that with pretty much any reading resource, books, magazine articles, newspapers, even online blogs. Practicing your scanning will save you a lot of time in the reading section and give you more time to think about the trickier questions. So that's a really vital skill. It's also testing whether or not you understand the specific information or key pieces of vocabulary. The reading test itself often will pick quite a difficult topic. It might not be a topic that you know heaps about, and what they're almost trying to do is to make it seem a little bit more difficult to really test how good you are at understanding contextual vocabulary and information. Remember that this test is trying to understand your reading abilities and not your abilities as an expert of whatever the topic is. So try not to get too bogged down if there are, for instance, keywords or phrases that you don't understand. You're not being tested on the content itself, but you're being tested on your ability to read a difficult passage and interpret information from it. So do keep that in the front of your mind. We've just got a question come through. Are the questions in the same order as the paragraphs? Often it will run chronologically, yes. You'll see when we move to the example that every question will actually say which paragraph it's asking you to look in. So it won't just assume that they go paragraph by paragraph, although that is often the case. They often do go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and so on. If it does kind of ask you to refer back to paragraph A, it will say that. So at the start of every question, it will say in paragraph and then tell you which one to look at. So immediately that means you just want to locate that paragraph and not worry about any of the others. That's a really key thing to do. So no, not always. They're not always in the same order as the paragraphs, but the question will tell you precisely which paragraph to look at. Okay, so back to our multiple choice questions. The key tips for these kinds of questions, if you're able to think of how you would paraphrase the information in the question itself. So when you're doing this, you're thinking of what's another way of asking that question? What other key words would I be thinking of in terms of synonyms, or how to rephrase the information, because that's often how it might appear in the passage. The questions won't use precisely the same words, and they won't say direct quotes, but they'll be using paraphrasing. So if you can paraphrase in advance and then scan for the paraphrase, it will save you a lot of time. Also, you want to locate the precise piece of information inside of the passage. So if you know what paragraph you're looking for, find that. Then you want to find the actual sentence inside of that paragraph that the question is targeting. That again will save you a lot of time kind of looking for the answer. And once you've found it, you'll be able to think a little bit more deeply about what potential paraphrase options might be, and therefore use that to select an answer. You can see here I put the answers do come in chronological order usually, so often you will find yourself working through the paragraphs in chronological order, or through the paragraph itself in chronological order of sentences, so that can be really helpful just to know, but do double check, because like I said, they will specifically tell you which paragraph the questions are in. And the final tip is, if you're really stuck on a multiple choice question, to start using what we like to call the process of elimination. And what this means is, as you'll have 4 options, as you'll see when we move on to the example. What you want to do is, if you're not sure which of them it is, it's likely, or it will likely be the case, that you are able to actually remove maybe 1 or 2 that you know for sure it isn't. And that can be really helpful. So if you know that one of the possible options is definitely wrong, put a cross through that, so that you can start to look at the 2 to 3 that you have left, and then you can make what we call a well-educated guess. If you're really running out of time, you feel like you're taking way too much time on that question, but do try and go through the process of elimination to remove answers that you know are definitely incorrect, to remain kind of with the choice between just those ones that are either more similar or closely related. And then once you've done that, you want to reevaluate the actual information in the passage and think of which is the best way of paraphrasing that information. So we can move on now to just a little example of a multiple choice question. I've selected this one because it is a little bit unique. It's not your bog standard multiple choice question. It's actually giving you a new sentence, so a sentence that isn't from the passage itself. So you can see here it hasn't specified a paragraph, it's actually just put in red a completely new sentence, and it's asking us which of the sentences below best express the essential information in this sentence. So it's a really good practice because it's practicing our paraphrasing, it's practicing looking for key information, it's practicing synonyms. So what I'm going to do now is just give everyone a couple of minutes. I'll give you 3 to 4 minutes just to read through this sentence in red here. And please put in the chat which of the options you think are the best answer. So if you were to be given this in the test, which answer would you select? Once you're done, please put your answers in the chat. I know that Bob has put an answer in already, so everyone, please, when you've picked what your answer is, do put it in the chat. I'll just give you a couple more minutes on this question and then we can move on. Okay, we've got a couple of different answers in the chat. Does everyone else need a little bit more time? Is that why we've only got 2 answers? If people need a little more time, please let me know. If not, it would be great to see people just having a go. I promise you'll get more out of the session if you are able to participate a little bit more. So do we need a little bit more time?
Yes, 1 second, please. Yeah, I want 1 second.
Worries. Yep. Okay, we'll give it a couple more minutes. I'll wait for just maybe like 3 or 4 answers in the chat, and then we can discuss. Okay, we've got 3 answers, so we'll just get going on the discussion now. Of course, if anyone is still working, please do put your answer in the chat when you've got there. But just in the interest of time, we will begin to discuss this question and how to approach it. Interestingly enough, everyone in the chat has actually put a different answer, which is great because we're going to do a lot of learning. So the sentence in question, see again. Okay, so Bob has actually changed his answer. That's fine. Okay, great. Good to see you're still thinking about it, Bob. That's excellent. So our sentence is, with the reduction of the pectoral muscles that demand a great deal of energy, the metabolic energy rate of flightless birds reduced, and they were able to conserve energy. Hopefully everyone saw that I just put a little note in the chat that ratites are a type of flightless bird. That is something that is mentioned in the passage, I think, in one of the introductory paragraphs. Oops, sorry, to go across. Let me just go back. Okay, so a couple of people have put C, so let's start with that. So ratites, so this is the type of bird, are better able to conserve energy due to a higher basal rate, as the pectoral muscles are large with less demand for energy. So this is a really interesting choice because it does repeat a lot of the keywords from the question. But what C is actually telling us is the opposite of what the sentence. No worries, Dr. Ali, that's absolutely fine. Great to hear that you're still managing to attend. Maybe you would want to play it back and have a go at some of the questions in your own time, but that's absolutely fine. So as we were saying, for C, what this is actually telling us is the opposite of the sentence itself. So there are a couple of options here to explain that. It says here that these kind of flightless birds are able to conserve energy, which is true. So I can see why people would be leaning towards that. What we can see here is it says that they have a higher basal rate. What we're told in the sentence itself is actually that the metabolic energy rate of the birds reduced. So the key difference here is one in C, it's telling us that the energy rate is higher. However, in the sentence itself, it's actually telling us that the energy rate is reducing. So that is the kind of first clue that C might be our wrong answer. It also tells us that the pectoral muscles are large with less demand for energy. We are told that the pectoral muscles do demand a great deal of energy. So again, I can see why a lot of people have said C, because there's a similarity there between the two sentences. But actually, we're told that the pectoral muscles are reduced. So C isn't the right answer. Key clue here being the higher basal rate, but actually in the sentence itself, we're told that it's a reduced basal rate. So that's the kind of first and biggest clue that C might be wrong. Someone else actually also selected B as an answer, which we can unpack as well. Here, the first bit that gives us the clue that B might not be correct is that it says that flighted birds are able to conserve energy better. And this means that birds with wings are able to conserve energy better. But what the sentence itself is telling us is that it's actually flightless birds that are able to conserve energy. So again, B isn't the right answer because it's telling us the opposite of what the sentence in question is. Key clue here being flighted birds in comparison to flightless. Flighted meaning with wings, and flightless meaning they aren't able to fly. So things like chickens or penguins, for instance. So B also isn't the right answer. I know that someone in the chat also put D. I think, Bob, it was you, and then changed your answer. We'll just go through that just as a kind of learning point for everyone. Here it says that flightless birds are better able to use energy due to a higher basal rate. Here, this again isn't right because what we're talking about is flightless birds using energy when actually the sentence itself is telling us that flightless birds conserve energy, so they save energy. So actually, if we look now at sentence A, it tells us that ratites, which we know are a type of flightless birds, are able to conserve energy because of a lower basal rate. So here again, we have the kind of tick sheet of conserve energy. That's correct. That's mentioned in the sentence. Also due to a lower basal rate, which is true because we're told that the energy rate is reduced. And then we hear as the pectoral muscles are small with less demand for energy. And the key synonym here is the reduction of the pectoral muscles that demand a great deal of energy. So A is our correct answer. The key synonyms are, or key things to look for is if we're conserving energy, and also the lower basal rate and the smaller or reduced pectoral muscles. So there are kind of 3 areas of synonyms and similarities for A. Hopefully everyone is clear now where the issues with B, C, and D lie. So actually A is our right answer. Again, the best way to approach this is to paraphrase the information in the question. So always be thinking of synonyms. The ones in our case are things like smaller pectoral muscles instead of reduction, or a lower basal metabolic rate instead of a reduced rate, conserving energy or saving energy. So if we're able to come up with key paraphrases or key synonyms, that will really help us to identify which of the multiple choice questions is the the multiple choice answers is the right answer to our question. Does anybody have any questions on that? I think that is a really difficult one, so well done for everyone for having a go. And like I said, B, C, and D, there are definitely, this is quite a tricky one, so I can see why everyone would have picked each of their answers because each of them do share 1 or 2 similarities. You've just got to be really careful to read for all of those synonyms and check that there aren't any hidden contradictions inside of what is said. Okay, so A is our right answer. Hopefully that's now clear for everyone. Now we've unpacked each of the sentences. Any questions before we move on to the next style of question? All clear. Okay, excellent.